We record to computer.
I like.
Yeah.
So did you get to check out those things I sent you? I don't know.
Yeah. I checked them both out. I had already seen all of that Charlie Kirk stuff,
Okay,
all of those
okay.
clips.
I
I
I
already seen
figured.
all of those. Um,
Okay.
I
You
didn't.
know what?
Well,
Uh-huh.
what
Go, go.
Jimmy Dore's co-host? Get rid of that guy, bro. Like, what is that guy's deal? Anyway,
You don't
uh,
like him?
in that clip, he was just so annoying. It was so pointless. Like, ah, oh my lord, it just needs a little bit of editing. Um,
Yeah. That's funny because I actually really like him. Not necessarily in
I'm just
that
talking about
clip.
in that clip only.
Okay,
I don't
okay.
know anything about that guy in any way, shape, or form. In that clip, he was super annoying, and it seemed like
Okay,
Jimmy was
okay.
even getting annoyed with it. Like, like okay, like all right, bro, like give me a second here.
Well, yeah.
Um,
Well,
and then
I think Jimmy gets annoyed with him pretty regularly.
yeah, he doesn't seem to like think before he talks, which can be a great advantage. But then
And
if you're the
sometimes
other
work
person
against you.
talking, it's like, yo, just give me a second, stop interrupting, bro.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Just give me a second to finish, so you can say whatever you want. And then the other economic
Yeah, yeah.
you know, I you know, I thought it was way too vague, and um the guy being like, yeah, Trump has this like plan and blah blah blah. It's like, hey, ain't Trump's plan.
Hmm.
Maybe Trump is doing some of it or something, right? But it's like
Hmm.
there's people who wrote the Project 2025 shit. It wasn't
Hmm.
fucking
Hmm.
Trump. It's all these other people. The idea that it's the Trump stuff. Otherwise, it just seemed too vague. Both of those guys just seem kind of. I know you like them, so I'm trying to be
Well,
relatively
actually, I actually,
diplomatic or something, but
uh-huh.
it just
No,
seemed
no,
vague. Like, what did they
speak
talk about?
freely.
Not much. Um,
Speak freely. I mean,
and
the host, I really like the host.
the guy on the
The
left,
guest,
the
the
longer
guest is,
hair,
yeah, yeah, I really like him. He's great.
he
Trust me.
seems
I
like
bet you if you
chill
watch,
and nice. I would have dinner with him. I found them both underwhelming in terms of their level of intelligence, and maybe that makes me egotistical or narcissistic. But as a therapist, that's real. I'm looking at like how someone. I'm trying to kind of figure out
presents.
how intelligent someone is
Hmm.
and in what areas.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because just because you're not good at speaking, you might be some kind of math genius or some shit. It
Yeah,
doesn't.
yeah, yeah,
It can
yeah.
be.
Totally.
It's always in some area. So I'm always trying to figure out where do I feel like people are intelligent, and then just kind of an overall general intelligence. And
Hmm.
both of them just seem a little bit average or so in intelligence. Of course, again, I don't know either one of them. I have
Hmm. Hmm.
no idea outside of the one clip that I watched on 1.5x speed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um I thought let me see if I can think of what I thought was um I think the idea of X versus Y was kind of interesting. And in his case, he was positing a America, Russia, China alliance versus this
The bricks.
a
Arc.
British Empire or European type
Yeah, yeah.
level of control. But to me, the idea that one is better than the other is just I like
Well,
nah,
okay.
I don't think so.
Well,
Um,
uh-huh. Hmm.
I'm kind of radical, or I don't even know what the fuck I am anymore until somebody is advocating for taking care of all basic needs of all beings on the earth. I've been going to think they're total morons and ridiculous. I think this is like looking back at slavery going, wow, that's so dumb. Like, how did people do slaves? Like, it makes no sense. And I think in
Hmm.
100 years or 1,000 years, I hope it's 10 years, but it won't be. But in a
Hmm.
hundred years or 1,000 years, when we get to something like a Star Trek level, where you know the the way to get rid of wars, at least giant ones, is to take care of all the basic needs of all beings on the earth and in the universe as like a priority, as just like a right of being alive in this universe. I'm just not going to be down with most like political ideologies or plans or anything like that. But anyway, I'm talking too much. Give me your side. I've given my slightly critical side.
No, thank you for sharing that, because I really wanted to hear your thoughts, because I personally have, well, the long-haired guy I really like.
He seems chill. Like I would want to have dinner with that guy, or like chill or smoke a joint or something with that
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, yeah.
The other guy, like, nah, not really. Like he's fine. I have nothing, but do I want to like hang out with him or like whatever? No, not really. No, not really. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
that's just my gut. That this is purely I'm reflecting my gut feeling about some people I know nothing about.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, the interviewer, the long hair guy, I really like. Like, I'm not necessarily in that he says things that blow my mind, or tells me something I've never heard of or thought of before, as much as I feel like he's a genuinely good and decent, intelligent person who um like, say for example, I
And
mean,
you know
I
more
never
about him, like you know more about that guy, whatever his name is, like you're familiar with him.
well, I basically first stumbled upon, we're talking about Neil Oliver, the long-haired guy.
Instead of and the other
He
guy's like Longuo or something.
oh yeah, yeah, Tom Longo.
Okay.
So Tom Long, well, first let's talk about Neil Oliver, the long hair guy first, then we'll get to Tom Longo. Because I really like Neil Oliver. Like you said, I would love to hang out with him.
Yeah.
I never heard of him before COVID, so I don't know what his deal was before COVID. But during COVID, he was one of the few people, not the only person, but one of the few that was giving a platform to COVID dissidents, and wasn't giving them a platform so that he could like stab them in the back, like the way, like, say, like whatever History Channel, when it as on would have on whatever stuff about conspiracies or stuff about UFOs, it would start off by giving a platform to the people who think there's something there. And then, the final, but then it like, all right, now that we showed you that side and we've given it a platform, now we're going to show you how it's mostly bullshit, or questionable at best, you know. So it ends up being like, hey guys, like, we're being fair and balanced, like
Yes.
we have a defense attorney and a prosecuting attorney, but the prosecutor gets the final word, and that's kind of the subtle magic trick,
Right.
that, until History Channel went like Ancient Aliens, to which at that point it stopped doing that, because they're like, you know what? Like, the people watching this are the people who want to believe. So why don't we just give the customer what they want?
Yeah.
And we'll mix in some skepticism, but we're really going to be, it's more going to be, a pro as opposed to a con
Yes.
presentation.
Yes.
So I'm just saying, he was one of the few people on major corporate media that was doing that.
Yes.
And to me, look, I think that's very important. I think, whether I agree with a person or not, like, someone who's just gonna not have an agenda other than to try to have a greater understanding and
Yes. Yes.
present things as best as we can, to try to, as opposed to like having this, subtle or secretive agenda where we're going to present it, but we're going to have it fail the way,
Yeah.
like, and so I give him a lot of credit for that. But he's not someone that is like gonna, that's gonna like blow your mind because he's this beautiful mind. He's like a more of a
Right.
beautiful
Right.
human being
Yeah,
than a
that's what it
beautiful
seems like
mind.
to me too. Yes.
Yeah. Tom Longo is very different. Tom Longo, like you said, is someone who, yeah, I don't really need to hang out with. You know,
No.
he's like in the ways that the things I don't particularly like about Jack Cruz, for example, like how much of a dick and how arrogant he can be,
And see, I don't care the dickishness and arrogance. It's like I can handle that. I don't like it when when somebody aims that at someone else. If you're
yeah,
just like a
yeah,
stand-up comedian and you're a
hmm
dick, it's like, oh, this is probably gonna be good.
yeah, yeah,
It's when they start being jerks at some random kindergartner on the street. You don't know, you haven't been paying
yeah,
attention
yeah.
to the whole story, kid. It's like what the like I'm in kindergarten, bro. Like
Right,
shit.
right,
Okay,
yeah,
anyway.
yeah, yeah. So actually, Tom Longo in this interview was actually far nicer and less arrogant and less of a dick than I've pretty much ever seen him
Okay,
before
okay, cool. Interesting.
because he actually respects and likes Neil Oliver.
So they kind of
Okay.
have like a history or a friendship or
I
something
don't even
or
think they have a
something.
history, but at the beginning of it, I was surprised here, when Neil Oliver's like, "Hey, I'm a fan of yours and I like your work and your analysis and your geopolitical analysis and market analysis." Um, and Tom Longo was like, "Hey, I'm a fan of your stuff too. And I like your work. And so this is like a mutual admiration society."
Yeah.
And which I was like pleasantly surprised because I really didn't know what he was going to think about Neil Oliver.
Hmm.
Um, uh, like a lot of times in most of the times I've heard Tom Longo be interviewed in the past, I don't know, it bothers me in a way like Jack Cruz bothers people, like the arrogance and the dickishness usually rub me wrong. But and he sees things, at least in some ways, very differently than me. Like, for example, the way he's like, no, Trump knows what he's doing.
Yeah, like
Um,
or
wait,
that you can
let me.
talk about America, Russia, and China as if they're one kind of united thing. Like that America is one thing.
Well,
Like, no, have you been paying attention? Like people are just like blowing each other up. Like, no, like
well,
it's reductionist. It's reductionist. Yes, Trump is in charge. He knows what he's doing. It's Russia, China, and America, and it's like so clear cut. It's like, oh yeah, it's this versus this. Boom, the end. It's like I bet
well,
it's more complex than that.
well. Okay, of course, he is, overly simplifying things in ways there, and I'd imagine he would agree with that criticism. Like he probably would not argue against that, I would assume. Um, uh, I'm not a big fan of Tom's. That being said, like he is like I'm just saying, like most of the geopolitical analysts that I regularly listen to, like very few of them like Trump. Almost none of them like Trump or fans of Trump.
Sure.
Um, and the vast majority of them think Trump is whatever. He's fucking things up in many ways. Maybe they don't go about it the way MSNBC or the New York Times goes about it, where they just reflexively are going to hate anything and everything he does, unless what he's doing is bombing a country. Then they all love him. Um, for example, like in Trump's first term, when that first time he bombed Syria, all of a sudden, all of those, those stations I just mentioned, like whatever, MSNBC, CNN, New York Times, who, Trump is Hitler, Trump is Hitler. He
Yeah.
bombed Syria. Then all of a sudden they're like, wow, this is the most presidential he's ever been. And, Brian Williams infamously quoted you know, who's the Hallelujah songwriter,
Hmm.
um, Leonard Cohen, and
Yeah.
he's like, watching Trump send these bombs to bomb Syria reminds me of Leonard Cohen's lyrics of the beauty of our weapons, which is like, oh my God. And that's the type of thing that the average, whatever you want to call it, liberal, progressive, or neoliberal, whatever, um, they were too dumb and full of hate and anger and too ignorant to understand like what a reveal that was, that the only time that they would stop claiming he was Hitler was when he was bombing someone,
Hmm.
which was a hell of a reveal to someone like myself.
Well, and they kind of discussed that in the interview a little bit,
Mm-hmm,
about
mm-hmm.
um like, look, I bombed them, like, can we move on now,
Yeah,
like, I did
yeah.
what you wanted, like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
it's over.
Totally. When talking about the Iran thing
Yeah, right.
with right the nuclear sites, which is something that I think there's something really there to that,
Yeah.
like that. I was so furious at Trump for that whole 12-day war with Iran. But then as I settled down a bit, um, it wasn't just Tom Longo. It was like that guy, Alex Craner, who I sent you, who they mentioned a few times in that interview that I just, between Tom Longo and Neil Oliver. Because
Hmm.
Alex Craner is someone who I like love.
Okay.
Um, I've sent you him before.
I
He's
remember I
great.
remember one, but keep sending them as you find stuff that you
Okay, I
like,
will. I
because
will.
I don't know anything about him.
Okay. So both Craner and Longo are basically market people from the market, like Alex Craner used to run a hedge fund. Um, Tom Longo is a market guy too, and let's just say I'm ignorant of the nuance of the market that in ways that Alex and Tom are not.
Hmm.
So I kind of defer to them on certain things. Where there are other people, plenty of other market analysts, it's very hard to find market analysts who also really know their history and who are also aware of the great game that's going on of empire, or if you're more conservative, you call it globalist. Um, Whatever, tomato, tomato.
Hmm.
Um, now, Tom and Alex Craner are two of the only people I listen to, and I don't listen to Tom that often.
Hmm.
Like he annoys me too much that I'm like, whatever. And at this point, I kind of know where he's coming from
Yeah.
and what he's saying.
Yeah.
That uh, you know, I don't really think he differs that much in his analysis. So I feel like I understand where he's coming from, and I guess the thing about Tom that I do respect is, even though I like I said to you, like I'd argue he's not conspiratorial enough. Um, he's just kind of conspiratorial light. Um, and he like, whereas for me, I feel like Trump. I would more argue that Trump is either part of it or is just held hostage to the system.
Hmm.
So he's got to make certain moves that, uh, like say the Iran 12-day war, like that was something where by saying very publicly, we have pulverized, we have annihilated their nuclear capabilities. Like, I do actually agree with Tom and Alex that that was a clever move by Trump
Hmm.
to basically say, "Hey guys, I've publicly stated we've destroyed their nuclear
Right.
capabilities
Right.
now. So now you can't use that as an excuse to go and start the next round of the war with them, which you clearly want to do."
Yeah.
So I do actually agree with people like Tom and Alex that was a clever move by Trump. That if we can set aside our reactionary, the reactionary part of us, we're like, you know what? Like, actually, he probably made a very good chess move there by doing that, because now he's made it harder for Israel and the interest that Israel represents to manufacture consent for the next round of Iran escalation, which is, in my mind, is just a matter of time. Like, it's not like, oh, Trump's move has made it so that they're not going to escalate with Iran again. I think they're totally going to, but I think now it's going to be a little more difficult for them to do it. And I think that, for example, Trump going to Israel and saying, remember that thing with Mary Matelson where he's like,
yeah, of course,
and then he's like, I asked her once, if you had to pick between America and Israel, who's your priority? And we know she's Israel first.
Right.
Like that was a hell of a play by Trump. That was Trump being like, now it's on record that, like, he's covering his ass in a way. He's letting it be known, kind of like the way Charlie Kirk was like, hey, 20 hours in a country the size of New Jersey to respond? Like, no. Something's going on here. Like, he's putting it on record, and he's bringing Tucker Carlson on stage. He's bringing Dave Smith on stage.
Well, he does. I mean, I think he does. I think that I don't know if what I'm about to say is the same as what you're saying. To me, that's a cover your ass.
That's
tactic.
Exactly what I just said. It's covering his ass.
Right. Like it's like he did with Elon with the election and stuff like that. Yeah, it's like a constant. It's like, which probably won't actually work. You know what I mean? Like, actually, if shit hits the fan, but in some ways, I think it kind of keeps the clubhouse going.
Well, I mean, I just think that the way I think I've said this to you before, the way I look at it is, whether you're Trump, whether you're Netanyahu, whether you're Obama, whether you're Bernie Sanders or whoever, like, if you want to play this game and you want to be, the singer of the band, because that's what, you're not the songwriter. You're not
right. Yes.
Yes.
You're well said. Well
man,
said.
Right?
Yes.
And so, but then all of a sudden they want you, and you're part of this. This is who you are. You're locked in. You can't get out of the band for 4 years. And then all of a sudden the band wants to play. They want you to sing a song that you really don't want to sing. But you've got to sing it. Like, you're going to have to, maybe you'll be subtle about it. You're like, all right, I'll sing your song, but then I'll get out on stage and I'll be like, hey, Mary Madelson.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So that, I'm going to do what they want, because if I don't, they're going to rape my daughter repeatedly.
Yeah.
They're going to show me, like the Bill Hicks thing. They're going to show me that footage of JFK getting his head blown up. They've already shown him that.
Yeah, of course.
They've already let him, whatever. If there's aliens really running the show, they've shown him that, and they're like, dude, this is so far above your pay grade.
Absolutely right.
That I don't care. You want to cover your ass in clever, subtle ways. That's not what we really want, but we can tolerate that, because we can still run with it, with the New York Times, with the Wall Street Journal, with Fox News, with CNN, MSNBC. We can still work with that, because we're just going to leave out your Mary Matelson thing. And then the people online, the people who are independents and the people who are into this conspiracy stuff, all right, they might learn about it and they might think this is relevant and important, but my dad is never going to hear about this shit.
Right.
Right. And so that's kind of the way the game works. And they tolerate a certain amount of hey, we're working with flawed human beings here across the board. On occasion, they're going to fuck up, and on occasion, they might try to cover their ass. But we got to work with that, because we can get away with killing Charlie Kirk. I'm not so sure it's going to be tougher to get away with just killing Trump, now that he's president.
Yeah.
Now, if we're going to assume that assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania was legit, which I first did, but as over time, I'm like, I'm not so sure, because of like the way they position the flag and the way like a lot of the reporter, there's a lot of things about that in hindsight, it's like, you know what, this might have been staged in a weird way. And I think that might be that we're at a juncture in the game where something like that starts becoming a reasonable play to call, for the team, because you haven't won the game yet.
Yeah.
There's certain things that you've got, like you've got the coaching staff, you've got the players, but you've got the refs. But there's going to be some things like the wind might come, and the wind, you throw the ball and the wind might take the ball. There are things you can't control everything.
Yeah.
And it would make sense that, and who knows, maybe it was like, and if we kill him, we kill him. But we're trying to just miss, or maybe there's like a blood packet, or maybe there's, what I'm saying? There's so many ways. There's so many ways to game that to be taken seriously in the moment, because not after the fact, because we can know about whether it's 9/11 or COVID or JFK. We can learn all this stuff, or the WMDs. We can learn all this stuff is bullshit after the fact. And they might find out, but that's not the end of the world to them. They know that over time it starts having a
well, and if you steal an election and people don't figure it out or get it to the courts until 4 years later, then who gives a fuck? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, okay, like, yeah, we stole it, but that was 4 years ago, and you're a little late to the party.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. And that's why I'm saying, like, I think it's time, and I feel like that's one of the important things about us doing this podcast is we're just more or less two normal guys who are trying to talk about this stuff. We're knowledgeable in this stuff to a certain extent, and we're knowledgeable in other areas that allow us to connect different dots, so we don't have the full picture yet, but we have a kind of vague outline of more or less what the picture is. We might not be able to name all the names because we can't, we can't name all who's doing what and how it truly went down behind closed doors, but we can outline that stuff. Whether it's 9/11, WMD, JFK, COVID, like, and honestly, I would even argue further that this is an ever evolving power structure that isn't necessarily a monolith lockstep together. Like, there are moving pieces within the power structure that we don't understand because we're not insiders to that level. And I think there are very, very few insiders at that level. There are circles within circles, and we have to be honest about where we're at. That we're so far outside the circle that the stuff that we're interpreting, the smoke signals we're picking up on and interpreting, are so far removed and after the fact. And that's why with something like COVID, it was such a devastating thing for me, because it was the first time that before the lockdowns happened, before things went full retard, like, I realized, like, it was almost like Rosemary's Baby for me, where she's getting raped by the devil and the cult is all around her, but in her mind she's just having this dream, this weird dream, and then all of a sudden the devil mounts her and the devil inserts himself in her. And then she sees the devil looking directly into her eyes.
Yeah.
And then she goes, oh my God, this isn't a dream. This is really happening.
Mm.
And then that's when it's like, all right, like wrap this shit up. Like, you know,
Yeah.
she's waking up.
Yeah.
You know, like that was the moment for me before the lockdowns and before they went full retard, where I was like, oh my God, this isn't a dream. This isn't just a theory. This is real. And that's when I was like, and look, and if I didn't have a kid, I think it would be different. I would have had a breakdown. It would have been scary, you know, but it was like having a kid all of a sudden, you know, because it's like, whatever, if I die or
Sure.
something, like whatever. But it's like, you know, having a kid, it's like, oh shit, now I can't just die. You know, now I've got to survive as long as I can. You know, now I got to make sure, do everything I can to help this child, you know. And it was something that was like, it was too much for me at the time and it broke me, you know, and the realization that this is really happening, you know, that it's not just some theory, like, but this is really happening. And my inability to express it and articulate it to others, you know, made me lose credibility in a lot of people's minds, especially say people like my brothers. Because when I talked to my brothers about it, and I was like, I was just breaking down crying as I was talking to them.
Yeah, right.
You know, and they're like, oh my God, what's wrong with Josh?
Right, of course.
He's finally gone too far.
Uh-huh.
He's finally gone off the deep end and he's finally lost his mind. And, you know, and I knew it. And I knew they were thinking that as I was crying to them. And they were worried about me. And I was like, now I've lost them in a way, you know, that I've never lost them before. Now they're never going to listen to me in the same way again because they're like, Josh has lost it.
Yeah.
He's no longer credible. And it's like, fuck, you know, like they don't need to believe everything I say, but it's like, guys, like you know, you guys are on my short list of people who I care most about. And so now I've made it so that you guys won't listen to me. And when I was like, don't get this shot, they were like, whatever, you know, psycho, you know, whatever, like you're going to break down crying, you know, and you're going to think something terrible's happening, but we're all still here, you know, and it's like, oh, okay. My name is Mud now. All right. I guess that's just the way it is. And it's like recognizing that whatever, any normie I try to talk to, like when you were trying to talk to your mom about, hey, don't get the new booster. Like, and I was like, dude, good luck. I can send you some stuff. It's just not going to work.
Yeah.
Because, and now I finally really, and I always used to kind of understand this, but now it made me experience it in a different way that like, oh, now I see the greater chess game of propaganda and ideas where, you know, you want to try to tell your mom not to get the newest booster. Like, dude, good fucking luck. Good fucking luck. And it's like, all right, I guess my mom is just going to poison herself and there's nothing I can do to stop it.
Yeah.
You know, and so you got to accept that, you know, and I accept that if I want to talk to one of these normies about something like this, they're going to be like, what's your source? I'll give them the source. They'll Google it or chat GPT it. And then the first 20 things that come up will be like, this person is crazy. This person's a conspiracy theorist. This person is an anti-Semite. This person is whatever, you know, anti-vax.
Yeah.
You know, and so all this thing, so that even if you get someone to open their mind to look into it, the deck is so, you know, it's so rigged and the deck is so stacked that like they're just not gonna, it's not gonna work like your mom with the booster.
Yeah.
You know, so accepting that reality that, you know what, I really want to help and try to help you and get you to not, you know, hurt yourself and poison yourself. But I know it's not going to work. I know you're just going to go ahead and do it anyway. And there's a frustration and it's like, you know, I guess it's just a recognition of reality that, I mean, at this point now I'm like, I've kind of accepted this, you know, and like, you know, for example, Steph had this interesting interaction with her good friend last night because her friend was like, oh my God, this, you know, the mayor of New York, like, he's an anti-Semite, he's a terrorist, he's a,
Wait, who was saying this?
oh, her friend, Steph's friend,
Oh,
like
wow.
her best friend from growing up. Because
Wow.
she's Jewish. No,
Well,
but this is
okay.
like, but this illustrates what I'm talking about. It's not
Yes.
just that she's a Zionist, you
Yep.
know, and because it's not just about being, it's about being a Zionist, you know, and it's important to parse out the difference between Jewish and
Of
being a
course.
Zionist,
Of course.
you know, and now I fully get this, whereas even before October 7th, I didn't really fully get it. I kind of was there, but I wasn't fully there. Now I get it, and now I'm like, okay. And so when their friend was saying all this shit, Steph was like, you know, Steph was like, hey, I didn't want to get into a nasty thing with her, but so I was just like, instead of saying you're wrong and you're ignorant and you're a racist and all this shit, which is what the girl was showing, you know, and what the girl was doing, but she doesn't realize it. She just thinks, she's like, no, I just know the real deal. I know the truth. You know, he's really a terrorist. He's really an anti-Semite. He's really a this and that, you know. And Steph was just like, instead of getting confrontational, Steph was just like, you know, I think that, you know, he's not anti-Semitic. He's just very critical of Israel.
Hmm.
And they're not the same thing. And then the girl's like, no, he's an anti-Semite. He's not just critical of Israel. And so Steph was like, send me whatever you
Right.
have,
Exactly.
you know, right?
Exactly.
To show me. So the girl sends her some stuff, and it's like, the person that she sent her was this woman who is some, you know, best-selling author or whatever, but the woman's like retarded, you know, and the woman is just like some retarded Zionist that is like
Right.
that, and
I'm looking for quotes here. I'm looking for a video
yeah,
where he says
yeah,
Jews are terrible.
exactly,
And you
yeah,
know, I'm looking for, you found another lady like you, and that's proof. I was like, oh God. Oh shit. Well, the AI, I found an AI that said it. Like, oh
yeah,
fuck.
yeah,
Oh
exactly,
shit.
exactly,
We're fucked.
exactly, and then so and there was nothing in it showing what she was claiming would be the proof. And
Well,
then so
because
Steph,
that'd be everywhere. I mean,
yeah,
look, I
totally,
mean, my God,
of
you can't
course,
be Republican or Democrat and talk bad about Jews. Give me a break.
yeah,
That's what
yeah,
you and I keep talking about, basically, right?
exactly,
It's like
exactly,
there's an underlying or maybe now overlying alignment with Zionism, right?
mm-hmm.
In America, God knows how long it goes back.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah, and so Steph was like, wrote her back and was like, hey, the things you said you were going to send to me, you sent me stuff, but the things you claimed are not in the videos you sent me. And the girl's like, oh, maybe I sent you the wrong videos. So she like sent another video. And again, it just didn't have it. And so Steph is like, comes to me and is like telling me about this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, look, I love Julie. Julie's a great person, but Julie's in this way is fucking retarded,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and she's a racist, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
and these are things that, look, she's not a bad person, and everyone is a little bit racist,
Of
you know,
course.
everyone has bigotries, and
I'm
it's kind
racist.
of like
I'm racist against everyone, especially white people. I did a research study where it shows you your bias between either black or white people. That's all it does. It's just black or white
Mhm,
people. It shows you different images and you respond to different
mhm,
questions and stuff like that. And it
mhm.
was like, yeah, you're racist against white people. I was like, yep, I knew that already.
Well,
But that's not what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to find out as a white person that you actually the typical thing is that white people prefer white people and black people prefer black people. And we don't really realize it until you do some type of cognitive test, and then you see certain things like that come up. So, that kind of got twisted around. That was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, well, and I would say that, say, like with COVID and the vaccines, there are different levels to the game. And the lower level was just the average person who was just like, all right, I'm going to go take this vaccine so I could be safe and not die or get seriously hurt by COVID.
Right.
Which, if you don't know any better, seems totally reasonable.
Yeah.
Then there's another level of people like myself who are like skeptical and critical of most all corporate narratives or narratives by power, where I'm like, if they're pushing something really hard, it makes me skeptical.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like, the pharmaceutical companies that are tasked by the boss, the higher level, the leaders of the empire of the big club and that we ain't in, that are like, that are paying instead of setting an incentive structure for big pharma companies to see we're going to have some of you try to achieve a more conventional vaccine. We're going to have some of you try to achieve the mRNA vaccine, which is going to be the future of a lot of medical products in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So there are these different levels to that, but then at the even higher level, you have like the real masters of the powers that be, and the masters of and oligarchs of the empire that are, I would assume, and pretty confidently assume,
yeah,
that they are doing a whole other type of observational study where they're going to see how all of those other lower levels are reacting and responding. And so in a similar way, I think that there's an ongoing testing of the propaganda or information and news institutions. And it's not just, so the people working in those media, like the vast majority of them have no idea about the oligarch owners of the system, and that they're monitoring and doing observational study from a more macro level. Whereas everyone who's in it, like the people at Pfizer, I think for the most part, had no idea what they were doing. Like they were just like, hey, there's an incentive. If this works and we can somehow, make these studies show more or less what we want them to show, so they'll be approved for use. Whereas other vaccine manufacturers, they didn't win the game and they didn't get record profits like the other ones did.
Mm-hmm.
But they are unaware that there are higher level people that are observing this on a more macro level and
right.
saying, okay, where's the resistance points? Where's the submission points? What can we learn from this and do differently next time? What was wrong with the product itself? How do we market it differently? How can we learn and improve? And it's not just about, because none of them are, at the top level are thinking this is going to work to help people. That's not what it's about. This is about other things. This is about compliance on a mass level, understanding how to, like the Pokemon Go thing,
mm-hmm.
where you're like playing this game where McDonald's and Starbucks are just paying you for the service.
Yeah.
The people that make Pokemon Go are more than happy to make shit tons of money making Pokemon Go, whereas I have to assume the vast majority of people making Pokemon Go have no idea that there's another purpose for it. That's a more
and it was an
purpose.
awesome game. Like we never did it where we went to like businesses or anything, but it was so fun walking around the neighborhood and stuff like that, and you'd catch a damn Pokemon. It was a brilliant game. I understand the evil subtext or what it was used for, or data mining, using it to get data and then and then what'd you call it? Economy of Action or something like
Economy
that.
of Action. Yep.
Absolutely, it was also an awesome game. Okay.
Totally. Yeah. Well, but that's the whole thing, right? You don't only want to make shit. You actually want to make a great game, like
Yeah.
on top of it, so that people will actually do it, you know? And I'd argue that the macro observational thing about this is that they knew at the tippy top that these vaccines were going to do nothing to help people, you know, that they were going to see how much this economy of action thing they're working on, which is the placebo effect, basically, but just put into a business model where if you just, like that old Nazi line, like you just say the lie and keep on repeating it, and then most everyone eventually just believes it,
Well,
you
and then
know?
it takes like I can't remember what the amount of time it takes to refute the bullshit is exponentially more than the time it takes to just spew the bullshit in its first place.
Exactly, which is what we were talking about before. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
if you guys figure this shit out that we rigged the election, but you figured it out 4 years later,
Yeah, it's like
whatever.
that's fine.
We got away with it. That's
Yeah,
fine.
that was like part of our plan.
Right? And even more so, I see now how I used to get annoyed when people would be like, well, they're, like 9/11 or these other things. They want people running around and being like, well, what about this inconsistency and that inconsistency? Like, they don't mind that. In fact, they like that. They like that people are doing that because while everyone's busy doing that, like while we're like going through, like, look at this thing about Charlie Kirk and that thing about Charlie Kirk, they're already on to other things, and all that shit is taking up our time. And yes, on some level, like by us studying and learning that, we can theoretically learn to be better at analyzing this stuff, and that's why, like, when I realized before the lockdowns, before the vaccines, before that, I realized like this is these are the same people that did 9/11, like, and this is the next big 9/11. Like the way that 9/11 changed everything,
Yeah.
and nothing would be the same. This is what's happening now, except back then, I didn't know that the disease itself would be so weak. I was worried that, I think they're going to try to kill a lot of people with this disease, and it did kill some people, it even killed a lot of people, but it really, there's these like good clips of, that these mashups of them at the beginning of COVID being like, it's 3.4% death rate, and then Trump being like, no, it's much lower than 3.4%.
Yeah.
And then all of them in lockstep being like, Trump is crazy. He's dangerous because it's clearly 3.4%, whereas really it was just like, it was like a tiny death rate, um, but, we didn't know. And honestly, as I've said to you before, like at that point, I had good sources for foreign policy and some history, but I didn't have good sources for medical stuff and medical dissidents. And I've changed that. Like that was in a way like the Ukraine war, when we put all those sanctions on Russia, we forced Russia's hand to become independent of the SWIFT payment system, and that sanction,
Yeah.
which is and so this, you could say, I don't know, it's debatable whether that was intentional, or I really don't know what's intentional or not. I don't know how much Russia, China, and America are really at each other's throats versus how much of this is theater, for all of us to pontificate about, and most of the normies will be like, of course it's real. What are you talking about? And it's like, but we have to be open to the possibility that there's at least a certain amount of theater to this. If not, it's mostly theater, like kind of like the way Orwell would write about, these nations that were fighting each other weren't really fighting each other. Or like when you look back at the history of World War II, how there was a lot of incestuous shit going on, and that the Nazis were brought to power by American and British banking, oligarchs and corporate, industrial oligarchs. And the Soviet Union was propped up and we were sharing technology with them, that was making the far right wing think it's all a communist conspiracy, and that's how and then the left wing would say it's all a fascist conspiracy, and you divide people in that way as opposed to like instead of getting caught up on the communism or fascism debate, or left or right debate, you know, again, they're arguing and busying themselves and taking their eye off of the real three-card Monte game that's ongoing. And as long as we don't know it until it's too late, until it's 4 years after the election is stolen, they don't really care, and maybe it'll be known that George W. Bush or Cheney knew more than we realize about
right.
9/11, but whatever, Cheney's dead.
Exactly, right.
So
No, exactly.
whatever.
That's all you got to do.
What are you going to do about that?
I mean, that's another great reason to have really old politicians is because when they break the law, they'll be dead a few years later. I was thinking that yesterday. It's like, oh, wait, that like helps a lot, It's like, look, we're going to have you do some illegal shit, but the very fastest they'll ever figure it out is 15 years from now. Even if they work really hard and have infinite money and have the courts and have the judges and have the lawyers and they find the evidence, it's still going to take 12 to 15 years, and you'll be 99 by then. It's like, oh, okay, cool. I'm down.
Exactly.
And I got to go in a few minutes. I have my I have to take a picture for my license.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like that's why, like when I was researching for the Smedley Butler stuff, at some point I was like, what do I really have to add to this? I'm like, all I'm doing is reading all this history and understanding with all this analysis and documents that other people have looked into, and I can write into a script and make it into a movie or a whatever, a graphic novel or whatever, but it's like, what am I really adding to this? What's my, and it's like, now it's like, I guess in a way, we represent the little people who are doing their level best to try to understand this stuff while we're all flawed human beings who have our biases and confirmation bias and preferences that prevent us from seeing the biggest picture, and the biggest picture I do firmly think is, all of these people are held hostage to the system, the empire, the machine, and maybe it's just aliens up at the top and they're like, yo guys, like, we don't really care which one of you guys are running the show, as long as you keep everyone in their lane, more or less.
Yeah.
And you divide and conquer everyone. That's why I think whether the alien thing is real or not, it's helpful to think of it that way, because, and if you guys can't do your job of of keeping America, and Russia, and, as opposed to like the whole world uniting and being like, you know what? Like, we don't have to take this shit anymore.
Right.
We don't have to, like, this whole Republican Democrat shit is bullshit. But I can't reach 90% of people, because if I say this Republican Democrat thing is bullshit, they're like, whoa. Whether they're Republican.
Oh, you're screwed for most people, because it's either they're going to be one of the other sides or they're going to be like, oh, you're doing the thing that both sides are bad, right? So you've already, there's so many people that are just not going to be able to
receive it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so accepting that that's the reality.
Yes.
Right. And that there's probably not much we can do about it right now, other than, I still talk to people and I still share. And I'm surprised every so often when someone comes back. I've been surprised at how many people have come to me, whether it's my dad or certain friends, and I'm like, well, I say to them, well, you and I see things very differently. And then they come back to me like, you know what? I don't think we see things as differently as we once did.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've kind of come more to your side, Josh. And I'm like what?
Like,
Like
what?
really?
Yeah.
And they they do their little token things of like, oh, like this is clearly bullshit. Like my dad is like, they told pregnant women to get the vaccine, and it was clearly a terrible decision, and they lied about it. They hid data, and that's
Yeah.
criminal. And I'm like, Dad, don't you see? It's not just bad for pregnant women. It's bad for everyone. But but he's trending towards my direction, and at least he can recognize it's bad for pregnant women.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
But I'm like, you still don't see the bigger picture. Like you still can't, and okay, that is what it is. But I just need people to talk to about this,
Mm-hmm.
to go through the ideas and better process this and have like that's why at this point you're one of the few people that I can talk to about this
Mm-hmm.
that like we're both like it's like playing tennis against someone who's just a worse tennis player than you. You can have some fun with it, but it's really not challenging and it's not going to make you improve in the
Mm-hmm.
way like or like
Mm-hmm.
playing chess against a lesser player versus
Right.
playing someone
Right.
better or at the same level as you.
Right.
And you're one of the few people in this chess game where it's like, you know what, like where it's like, dude, we're at a very similar level in various ways, and
Yes.
maybe we're stronger than each other in some ways, weaker than other, or whatever, but like you're one of the few people where it's like, no. And that's why it's like, dude, we have to do this. It's not about like, yeah, it'd be great if we got paid for this or whatever, but who fucking cares? Like there's something here that we're doing that is like all literature, is about, communication and human connection is about, that there is this unfortunate reality that no one want or very few want to really look in deeply into because it's really disturbing and it's really upsetting, to realize like, whoa, this is what we're up against,
Mm-hmm.
and to bring it back real quick, and I know you got to go in a minute.
Yeah, I gotta go.
But like the Tom Longo thing, it's like I might disagree with him about like, no, Trump is doing what is he's fighting them, and I don't really, yeah, I don't really agree with him on that. But I want to listen to what he has to say because I'll tell you what, I couldn't defeat him in a debate on that point. I could bring up points, but and we would just agree to disagree.
Right.
Whereas other people, I'm like, no, you guys are just ignorant. And, I don't think Tom is just ignorant.
Right. Oh, no. I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Well, great talking to you as always. Sorry, I got to go early today.
Okay. Great talking to you, man.
You too. I'll talk to you later.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
I'll
buddy.
post this later too. Okay. Talk to you later.
Awesome. Bye. All right. Later.